What career field are you in?
My career actually spanned a number of positions, and so I'll focus on where I was in my last position. So I worked in the electronics industry. My background is electrical engineering, and in my last role, I was working as an engineering management director in charge of project management. So what does that mean in simple terms? It's really bringing together large teams of different engineering specialties, people who are working across the world, because that's how these projects and products are developed. And basically, we were building blocks that go into all kinds of electronic equipment. So it's sometimes called computer chips, integrated circuits. Those are more the technical terms, but basically think of it as little building blocks that are used in anything and everything around in your everyday life.
Pretty cool.
What led you to join that field and that position?
That's a good question. As with a lot of things in life, it's a combination of luck and interest. So way back in the old days when I was looking to go, I knew I wanted to be an engineer, but I wasn't sure what kind. And when I was applying to college, there was a scholarship for electrical engineering, and that's how I picked it, honestly. But once I actually got to school and started studying the subject, I found that I really had an interest in it, and that's how I ended up. And in particular, when you think of electrical engineering, I don't know if you've had other engineering professionals come in for the interview, but electrical engineering is a very wide field, as engineering is a very wide field. My particular interest was more on the electronics side of it, which is where there was a lot of innovation happening. So that's kind of where I focused.
Awesome.
So was there anything in your childhood that inspired you to join the field of electrical engineering?
So, as I said, I was more interested in engineering, and part of that was at the time. I think now there's so much more awareness of engineering as a career for everybody, young boys, young girls, everybody. But back in the day, all I knew was that my dad was an engineer. He was a mechanical engineer, so that made me aware of engineering as a career. In terms of interest, really, it was I always liked solving puzzles, and more like, I would say, math and science, that's fine, but more logic. I liked applying logic, like, okay, how does this not take things apart, but like think about how things work. And the other thing I would say is I had this tendency to want to figure out how to do things in better ways. So in other words, if I'm doing a repetitive thing, or if I'm working on a set of problems that I'm doing repetitively, is there a better way to approach it? So those were kind of just more my tendencies. So I wouldn't say that there was electrical engineering was the thing that I was after, but it was these skills or these interests in solving problems that really led me to engineering.
So what impact do you think you have on the world as a STEAM director and engineer?
Okay. So I'm going to pivot a little bit to electronics, which is where I was performing my engineering management and project management director roles. So electronics, as you know, impact every aspect of our lives. And in particular, the products that we were working on at that time. And I always use we because it's all about a team. You can't build these things as an individual. It it requires large numbers of people, expertise in lots of different areas to make these things, to design them, to manufacture them, to bring them to market. So the products that I was working on impacted health. They went into a lot of medical equipment, things like measuring, like if you go into a hospital or even to a doctor's office, a lot of the electronics equipment that you would see in those places would have our products in it, which is really, really neat. And then safety, so a lot of things that you see in automotive, in particular, things, lots of new features that have come into play were things that we helped bring to market by building these building blocks. Entertainment as well, lots of fun stuff, home entertainment systems and so forth. And that was the really cool thing about working in this area, is because it is so pervasive. It is a building block, so it can be used in lots of different ways, and it's really exciting to be a part of that, to see that happen, to bring this technology and then have people use it in so many different ways.
So being a part of your field and making that impact, are there any qualities that you see in people who do stuff like you, like across the board?
Yeah, so I would say that analytical skills are very important. Continuous learning, so because things are always changing, you have to not just from a technical point of view, but how we do things, how we build product, how teams communicate. All of these things are always changing, and to try to stay on top of that, on top of all those aspects that are changing, there's an element of continuous learning, tenacity. There's a lot of problem solving that needs to happen, so tenacity and creativity. Perhaps not things that you think of in engineering, but there's a lot of creativity because we face challenges every day, and that's how you're going to solve those challenges.
Awesome.
Does that make sense? Do you see that? All right, good.
So something about your job that's like exciting, what would you say is like the most exciting part? Because I feel like when people think of engineering, like you wouldn't exactly think like, oh my gosh, that sounds so exciting. But
I think that's a bad rap on engineering because there's a lot of exciting things that can happen. I mean, the typical picture is someone working by themselves in like doing research or working on their design. It really doesn't work that way. As I said, it is a team activity, so you're working together as a team. And the biggest thing I would say is, again, I'll give you a couple of different examples. When I was in my initial career, when I was in test engineering, we would be the group that would first get, like, whenever a new design was being done or a new product came out, we would be the first ones to actually take a crack at it to figure out whether it worked or not. And our products would, for the design process and to get that initial product, it might have been a year. So there's a year's worth of work that's in this product, and you're the first one who gets to figure out whether it works or not. That's pretty cool. And then, the sense of teamwork as everybody comes together, and it's like, oh, what's working, what's not working? Have you done this? Have you tested that? It's exciting. It's exciting. And I think the other piece of it is, just seeing what our customers were able to do with our technology, and knowing what people are working on, and then eventually seeing it come out and seeing people make use of it. So, it's like having a preview to this new and exciting technology that's going to be coming out. Like, you get to see it first before anyone. I think that's exciting.
Pretty cool. So you mentioned that you were really interested in electronics and engineering, but is there anything else in the STEAM field that you find really interesting?
I think, I'm one of those people who um, I'm interested in so many things, and I feel like in terms of STEAM and science, there's so much being discovered right now. Like if you think about the research that's going on, nanotechnology, coming up with artificial organs. One of the coolest things is all the work that's being done in prosthetics, and like the combination of being able to, like, think about all the disciplines that come together in that. You've got electronics, you've got the mechanical, you've got people who are taking, you've got biomedical, because there, people are taking your brain impulses and bringing that out to a prosthetic device so that you can operate it. I mean, I feel like there's so much. There's like every area you think of, there's so much research and so much new that's being discovered, and the world is changing, and to be a part of that, to see that happen, and I think it's just a great place to be.
So you're obviously very passionate about STEAM, which is awesome. Is there anything like particularly in what you do that is like a fun fact that you don't think many people would know?
I think it's a fun fact that I think people don't always recognize or think about. So working in, and I'll go back to working in the electronics field, and it's how much technology changes and how quickly it changes, and the fact that every year your lives, your devices are get more powerful, get more features. It's really neat that the fundamental things, the fundamental building blocks that enable that technology, that's been going on. So I'll go back a little bit. So integrated circuits, or computer chips, really started coming into play in like the 1950s. You know, like it's been a long time since electronics have been, and improving and improving and improving, and that trajectory keeps going. The fact that we keep getting new technology and new productivity all the time, and it seems to be no end in sight. I think that's really, really cool. And if you step back and think about that, talk to your parents and talk about like, oh, what did cell phones used to be like when they were like, were there cell phones even around? And you just imagine that, like, how much has life changed, and how much easier, better, safer we've made things in just such a short time. I think that's really that's a fun fact, and that's very exciting to have been a part of that.
Great. So I think this is our final question, but what impact has STEAM had on you?
What impact has STEAM had on me? That's a good question. I think it's really shaped my life. If you think about it, I studied it through college. That's been my career. I've seen, it's helped me build my life, at a very basic, day-to-day level, but also to be a part of something bigger than being a part of a team, I met people from all over the world. I'm originally from India, and I came here when I was young. But in the course of my career, I went to Japan, I went to Germany, I went to England. I got to travel all over the world. In my last role, I was working with people from Australia and China, and it's just, the world is getting smaller. And in the course of doing my STEAM career, I got to know people from all over the world. I got to work with them, and what's really cool is bring people together to solve problems, to build products. it's been great. It's been a great career, and very satisfying.
That is probably one of the most interesting, that last question we asked to everyone. And like, usually people put it more on like the impact that they have on their daily life. And I liked how you like connected it to like the world. That was like really, really cool.
I'm glad I'm glad that I brought something new, but I mean, I think part of it is when you've been in the career, you have for a long period of time, you have a different perspective, I would say, and I can step back and look at that career trajectory and see a lot of different things in it. And in terms of you mentioned earlier about inspiring people to pursue STEAM. I got involved with an organization called the Society of Women Engineers from my college, from when I was in college. And initially it was more about getting support, but as I progressed through my career, I really saw the importance of encouraging more people to pursue these careers, but more importantly, more young women like yourselves to pursue careers in this area. That it offers great opportunities. And we need more women. and I'm so pleased to see that from when I was in school to now, especially I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a real focus on getting young women into engineering. I see it in the way colleges pursue high school students who are interested in these fields, what you're able to garner in terms of scholarships, and how focused they are on welcoming people into these kinds of fields. I think it's been really great to see that. And again, that's another, like, my little bit in going to career days and doing some Girl Scout workshops, or whatever, little ways to promote that field has been, it's also very satisfying. And I think once you get to a certain point in your career, you start thinking about, okay, what's coming next and who's coming next and what can I do to help that field along.